Oh my God. And then yesterday, 6 events, just a few less,
Wow.
but you're right. That's right. There's so many events going on, and they're great because they are different pockets of people and communities, all of whom are using these technologies in different ways.
Hey, it is Ed, Dawson-Taylor, and
Alex Coulombe.
we are at SIGGRAPH 2026 on the floor, the exhibition floor right behind us. And there is a whole load of stuff upstairs as well. There's all kinds of talks, demos, and all the things that SIGGRAPH should be, including obviously lots of parties. But yeah, we're just here walking the floor and checking out the cool stuff that's going on.
I've walked around a little bit. I mean, it definitely feels much smaller than Vancouver was. We're a little bit in this kind of goo between, the chrysalis and the butterfly. And it feels like there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And I'd say that's true both about the exhibit floor and then even just some of the talks going on where people are trying to feel out where's everything headed and they're not sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of transformation going on.
Yeah.
Basically, we've cooked our lives around doing everything digitally.
Yeah.
And all this AI stuff is like very, very capable at working on things that are digital. So yeah, here we are reacting to it. You did some really cool stuff at SIGGRAPH this year. Can you tell me?
Yeah, sure. And to the crowd and to the audience.
A little bit about what you did.
Yeah. So we had a few different fun talks going on. First of all, this is the second year of the Spatial Storytelling track at SIGGRAPH, which is a new track that is trying to push how emerging technologies like virtual and augmented reality start to create new ways to tell a story. I was also very fortunate to curate a version of that track at FMX in Germany back in May. And it's, I think, a wonderful new way to try to introduce people to what these kinds of technologies can do. And so here at SIGGRAPH, I just wrapped up a panel about VR live theater, and I got to be with a bunch of other incredible folks from companies like the Ferryman Collective and MetaMovie, all of whom put on live shows within virtual reality technologies. And we had a great discussion about where that is now, where it's headed, how do we draw more people to it. The folks from the Ferryman Collective were just nominated for an Emmy, which is pretty cool. That's never happened before.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we gave one talk about our work with the Royal Shakespeare Company and using virtual reality as a way to help everyone from the directors to the actors to the stage managers and the understudies, and just make them feel better about using a rehearsal room but feeling like they're actually in the full space that they're going to be performing in. And then lastly, I helped out with a Gaussian splat workshop. I love teaching, I love doing workshops, and would love to do more of that. Yeah, it's right back at him. And it's been fun. It's been a cool time hanging out. And then of course, Spatial Storytelling is located right in the middle of the Experience Pavilion or the Immersive Pavilion. So there's also a lot of great companies showing off new ways to use VR and AR, products, plugins, tests, R&D, etc.
Any patterns that you notice? Obviously, like different size of event. There seems to me like there's a lot more parties though than I remember in previous years. Like maybe they're not quite as massive as being on aircraft carriers or the things that they've done in the past, but there's a lot of them.
Yes.
And it seems to me like there's probably obviously, but like a big AI focus to what's going on. The sponsorship coming predominantly from Tripo and NVIDIA and those like big AI companies, basically.
Yeah, and thank you for the reminder about Tripo as well, because another thing I got to do over the weekend was be a judge and a mentor for a hackathon from a company called Sense AI, and that was very heavily focused on bringing in different AI companies to sponsor and provide credits and tools for everyone in the hackathon. And I'd never seen anything quite like that, where there was so much encouraging people to like not necessarily even open Xcode or whatever, but to like just ask the AI to do as much as possible and see what they could produce in 24 hours, 48 hours, etc. And yeah, it's been fascinating to see where that's going. On the event thing, someone was joking that they heard my voice. They said, "Oh, Alex, you've been event maxing again." Sounds like something the kids would say. And yeah, true. Tuesday night, Monday night, I went to 10 different events.
10?
Just like from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m.
That makes me feel tired.
Oh my God. And then yesterday, 6 events, just a few less.
Wow.
But you're right, Ed's right. There's so many events going on, and they're great because they are different pockets of people and communities, all of whom are using these technologies in different ways. But the sponsorships are kind of bizarre. The incentives are kind of bizarre. And it just feels like we're in a crazy evolving world right now that I think folks like us are trying to just stay on top of and read the tea leaves, but basically just try to stay resilient and make sure that we're maintaining fundamental skills that hopefully will always be useful.
Yeah, those are the ones that ride through trends, the foundational, fundamental domain knowledge or understanding how things work under the hood.
Yeah.
So that the surface level trend stuff is like one part of it, but if you have foundational knowledge, that is usually the stuff that rises to the trend. This trend is kind of a wild one, though,
yes.
This AI one.
And if you do have foundational knowledge, one really good thing you can do now is teach your harness, your second brain. You can utilize things like Claude Code, of course, with it knowing as much as you do about, like, we're both in Unreal Engine a lot, like weird gotchas and C-bars in Unreal Engine. And if there's a bunch of markdown files that your Claude Code instance knows about and can navigate that, then your foundational knowledge helps make your AI smarter and more capable with whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, it's like having extra gasoline for the work that you already do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the AI stuff that we had a Birds of a Feather up in the room 513 yesterday that was like a forum. It was really cool. It was like the anti-panel where the audience were really involved, and it was really cool being able to involve them as much, because there's so much feeling, there's so much emotion and excitement and fear and all of those things around some of these shifts. But like the narrative that's out there is a lot of like subversion.
Yeah.
And that's like the sort of marketing narrative or the fear narrative. It's like subverting everything we've already done.
Right.
Whereas like there is another one, which is how is it empowering some of the things we have. I know you've been doing a lot of work in MCP and the like agent, second brain stuff, which I'm like, I can't stop doing as well for some reason.
It is addictive.
Yeah.
I've kind of stopped playing video games. I was always such a big gamer, and I'm finding that a lot of these agentic workflows are kind of scratching the same itch and almost like the trophy reward gamified system that you get from a lot of video games, because it's so satisfying when you get over an obstacle and you finish something, and like you've produced something that you couldn't produce before. And like I can be very ADHD sometimes with wanting to be on a lot of different projects, and often those projects kind of go by the wayside as soon as I hit something that's not interesting enough to me, or like, oh, I gotta like submit this to test flight or whatever, and I fulfill all these requirements. And having an AI tool that can just take care of a lot of that, like, okay, to get this uploaded, I need these number of screenshots, I need this trailer, I need all these kinds of provisioning profiles and credentials set up. And like, yeah, in many cases, I need to do it once, but if I do it once and I'm teaching, Claude and my second brain well how I did it that one time, now it just does it over and over. And I'm lucky now that I'm at the point where I can go to bed and have an idea for an app and just ask Claude to like build a prototype of it, and I can wake up in the morning and it's on my iPhone or my Vision Pro or my MetaQuest headset, and it works. Like there might be some things where it's like, oh, this isn't quite what I meant, but like it's a working thing that 9 times out of 10 I either wouldn't have bothered doing, or I would have had a lot more trouble to get it to that point.
Yeah, to get the first kind of crappy version out of the way.
Exactly.
Which you always have to do, whether it's a movie or a piece of software or anything. So just give it some life. Sometimes to realize that this isn't useful, or like I don't want to take this any further, but like the ones where you're able to incubate little ideas and then say, oh, this is, which I'm sure you got the same as I did from the brain, and like orchestration type stuff. And I know that you've been leaning, and the gamification part was really cool, because I borrowed that idea from you into the training the brain thing. Like being able to set other things up was a bit dry before, and like that was a really cool idea to kind of turn that into a game. I know that you're working a lot on local models as well. There's like some wild stuff happening in that world with Kimi K3 supposed to come out open weights next week. And so it's benchmarking higher than Fable 5 at the moment. But yeah, I know that you're doing a bunch of that too, setting up local as well as like pinging Claude, like doing things locally. And there's a lot of different powers that they have. One that will run on a phone, to one that will need an A6000 or even an H200. But that variance is, I think, very interesting to figure out what is possible on some of those smaller environments, because they can't do anything. They can't do everything.
Right.
But they can do some things, and they're free.
And there's a lot of testing that you can do to figure out what these are going to be good at, not in an abstract way, but like, you can say like, hey, I want all 17 of the models I have access to right now to do this relevant task that's like right at the root of things I do every day. Could be something in Unreal, could be something with Premiere or whatever. And then you can kind of grade the results, especially with a more frontier model. But I don't think you would disagree, Ed, that we are almost definitely in an AI bubble, and that bubble eventually is going to pop, and we're no longer going to have cheap access to these frontier models. So the local models, the open source models, having those be something that we aren't going to have to pay an arm and a leg for, and being well positioned to use those. So, you know, if Claude costs $10,000 for 1 million credits tomorrow, like, we want to be in a good position to not be scared by that.
Yeah, sometimes they're just down.
Yeah,
and
like, too. Yeah.
Or you're on a plane, or like you're just somewhere where you can't do that, or you're with a client that can't let the data leave the premise, or there's some other reasons to do it as well. I think it is a crazy time to see capabilities like that coming to running on a laptop. Yeah, like the MacBooks have got so much shared memory that they can do really amazing things, as well as having big NVIDIA graphics cards. I feel lucky that I'm very bad at throwing things away, and we had a number of computers at my small office in New York City that were basically just paperweights, but now, of course, we brought them back to life. We've set up what we call our Claude fleet, and now it's much beyond Claude. Each of these computers, they're all networked together. They're all using what's it called? Tailscale. Tailscale to be on the same VPN. You learn about all these things that, like, you've never touched before. Tailscale, Cloudflare, Versal, like all these really helpful ways that Claude can just get something up and running quickly. It teaches you. Actually teaches you about architecture and frameworks and some of those things. If you pay attention to it, oh my God, then you can learn so much by doing it that way. And a lot of people don't even know you can change like the verbal style of Claude to be in more like a teaching mode where it actually breaks things down much more so you understand why it's doing what it's doing, which is cool. But yeah, real quick, so I've got all these computers set up, and they've all got Claude, they've all got a bunch of local models tailored to their particular, you know, graphics cards and RAM and all that. And then there's all these APIs. So you have a certain amount of credits from like Gemini, NVIDIA has some you can access, Grok with a Q is another one that you have free access to. And so you can set these up to all talk to each other, and you can have an orchestrator. It could be Fable, or it could be something like Kimi, and then you're basically saying, use all of our, you know, power here and do this task, and, you know, try to outsource the local models as much as possible. Learn if they do something wrong. It's okay if you need to then have another model do the same task. And as you just build up this, again, the second brain that understands really well how to make work get done productively and reliably, then you end up with just this cheat sheet that works really well and can help you do your work, like Ed said, with like gasoline, you know, or nitro poured into there to make everything run better. Yeah, even better than gasoline. Yeah, I'm doing exactly the same thing in like a slightly different way, but like basically the same thing. It's like having a render farm for completely diverse job types.
That's a good way to put it.
I use render farms for forever, and it's like it felt like that, but then it's also hooked into your brain and the knowledge that you've got, and that as you do things, it learns more and it feeds things back into itself, and it starts to get smarter over time, or at least appear smarter. But it's more contextualized, I guess, rather than being like technically vertically smarter or whatever. But yeah, anyway, wild times. What else are you excited about?
Well, I'm really excited to share more of these things. So, you know, we have our little GitHub repos of iBruce for me and Agile Lens for my company. And a lot of times I always felt uncomfortable sharing the stuff I was building because I've never thought of myself as a coder. But now that I can get a lot of tools out there in the world better, and they work, and we use them for a couple weeks, it's like, oh great, I can put this out into the world. Other people can use them. They give feedback, and I love having that virtuous cycle, I guess, of us all learning and contributing to these tools that are incredibly helpful. You know, they used to say that ideas are a dime a dozen or something. Everything's in the execution. And it feels like that's kind of changing, because if you have a really good idea, all the tools there are now to execute it. Now there's questions about how stable and reliable and if this code base can last over, you know, 10 years when you don't understand any of how it's built. But when it comes to prototyping, when it comes to trying something out and just saying like, oh, I want to make an Unreal Engine plugin that helps you, you know, get into the Fab Store better and understand better what the 800 assets are in your library. Like, that's a plugin I was able to mock up in a couple days that I never would have been able to do with my previous coding ability. That being said, my knowledge of Unreal Engine and the ecosystem and all the ways I have used it was really crucial for being very clear about what I wanted this plugin to be.
That's the domain knowledge. That's where you can stand out, because if everyone could use Claude or any model to code, it then is like, what are you going to make? Is it a good idea? Do you have all of the right domain knowledge? Do you also maybe have an idea of the software lifecycle? That's kind of what you want to program into these things to make them make solid, robust things that can test themselves. And so some of that understanding can really help you stand out. But yeah, no, wild times.
Amazing.
Wild times. Well, Definitely always a pleasure to catch up with you, Alex. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sharing stuff with the community as well. With CG Pro and Alex with Agile Lens. Thanks for watching.